Welcome to PJ Day and our conversation on finding the surface area of pyramids. So I put a picture up here of the most famous pyramids that we know of, which are the pyramids of Giza next to Cairo, Egypt. Some people don't realize that there's actually more than just the three main pyramids. You can see in the foreground here, and then also in the background, there are several pyramids. So many of the different leaders of Egypt had different pyramids built in their memory. But we need to understand what a pyramid is. And a pyramid is anything that has triangles on the side and any type of solid polygon to make the base. So we can have a triangular pyramid, which is a tetrahedron. We can have a square-based or rectangle-based pyramid. We can have a hexagonal, so we have a six-sided shape, and then we have a heptagonal, seven-sided shape, a dodecagonal pyramid. Any type of shape can make the base of a pyramid. You never know when someone's going to throw one of those at you and try to trick you. It's all done the same way. If I need all of the surface area, I'm going to find the base's area, whatever the shape is. So we know that on these, especially if they're regular shapes, all I have to do is find the area of one of the triangles that would make up the side and then multiply it by how many sides there are. Pretty simple. We've done that, and it's really basic math. Then I would find the area of one triangle that would make the lateral side, and then I would multiply that by how many are there. Then I put them all together. This lesson, 11.4, is all about pyramids. And then we have to understand what each of the questions are asking, because some of them aren't asking for the entire surface area. So let's look at what we're talking about when it comes to 11.4. So here we have this question here. It shares some information here, because if I look at the picture that's in the book, that's not one of the pyramids in Egypt. It says that most people think of Egypt when they think of pyramids, but there are ancient pyramids throughout the world. The Pyramid of the Sun in Mexico was built around 100 CE. Once again, that's a science term where they changed that about 15 years ago. We always have used AD and BC, and now we have current era instead of AD. It still means the same thing, our current time. And in one of the largest pyramids in the world. So when we look at that, then we look at what the question is posing to us as our first introduction. Kara is making a model of the Pyramid of the Sun for a history project. The base, so we're talking about the model, not the pyramid itself, is a square with a side length of 12 inches. Each triangular face has a height of 7 inches. What is the surface area of Kara's model? So we're looking for the entire thing. Now, there's one already in your book, but I had maybe two or three people yesterday that said, when I read the questions, I really don't know what I'm supposed to find unless I have a picture. By all means, if they don't give you a picture, draw the picture if it makes it easier for you. You can do that on any of the assignments that I give you, your test. Do it on the I-step inside the booklet that they give you. That's fine, because that's part of the steps of showing your work if you need to. You don't have to unless it tells you to. So let's look at how we set up the problem then. So we have all of the steps that are set out once again, and then we'll kind of condense that when we start going through the practice problems. But it gives you all of the setups. It says first we're going to start with the base, and we know the base is a square-based pyramid, so we have to have a square. So we have the S squared, which could also be base times height, but we know it's a square, and therefore our lengths are always the same on a square. That's why S squared or side square works. So I'm going to have 12, and 12 squared would be 12 times 12. Handy dandy calculator, 12 times 12 equals 144. Now when I taught with Miss Myers many years ago, she always was really good about making sure that third graders knew that their doubles of multiplication at the end of the year. So maybe you remember that from third and fourth grade. You don't need your calculator. You just know that 12 times 12 is 144, just like 13 times 13 is 169. Some of you memorize those, and that's fine also. When I look at the faces then, which is the next step, I know I'm going to use the formula of 1/2 times base times height. Once again, if you just put in your brain that it's base times height divided by 2, because a triangle is always half of a parallelogram, where we use the base times the height formula, then you'll be good also. I know that my base is 12 because the sides of my square are 12. I know my height is 7 because Well, the information told me it was 7. So I'm going to take my 12 times my 7, and then my last step will be to divide by 2. 12 times 7 is 84. I do my division. Top number always goes inside my division box. My bottom number is always my divisor. So I have dividend, divisor. My quotient is my answer on division problem. 84 divided by 2 is 41. My last step then is I have to think about what we're doing. I have 144 for my base. 41 is my area of a triangle, but it's a pyramid. So I talked about my lateral faces, and I have 4 of them. Now when I do this math problem, I should be able to look at it and remember what I have to do first. But just a quick review in case you don't remember. That's an order of operations math problem. Order of operations. We ask for several extra presents from my dear Aunt Sally. So I have absolute value, square root, exponent parentheses. Do all of those first. Then I have my dear multiplication and division from left to right. And then I have addition and subtraction, which is always my final step, from left to right for Aunt Sally. That tells me that I don't have any of these first steps, which is fine. So I'm going to start with my multiplication. I have to do my 4 times 41. I either put a box underneath them, like I indicate on your assignments when you leave off a label, or I go ahead and put them in my own parentheses around them. That works also. 4 times 41, though, is where I have to start. And 4 times 41 is going to give me 164. So I have my 144 plus my 164 for my lateral sides. Add those together. I know that her model that she built is 308 square inches. When I look at the next one, it says sometimes you need to find the total area of the lateral faces of a solid figure, but you don't need to include the area of the base. So over the last couple lessons, I realized that I totally skipped that in one of the previous lessons in chapter 11. So I want to cover that with you just so we know what we're talking about. The lateral faces are the sides that stand up. They don't have to be completely going up because right now we're talking about pyramids. But anything that is not a base, anything that is not flat on the ground or flat to the ground. So on a pyramid, the base is just the bottom. It can be your triangle, it can be your square, it can be your hexagon, it can be a pentagon, it can be an octagon, dodecagon, anything that's laying flat on the ground. Everything else is going up then, is your lateral face. In this type of shape, where I have a pentagon that is a prism, pentagonal prism, then I have a base at the bottom and a base at the top. But all of these sides that are standing straight up are my lateral faces. On my triangular prism, a bottom base, a top base, I have 3 lateral sides. On my cube or rectangular prism, bottom base, top base, I have 4 lateral sides. So on these questions, when it says lateral sides, we're talking about anything that is standing up. Going on then, some of you, once again, you need to draw that as a net, and that'll help you. Some of you don't need to draw it as a net. It's up to you if you do or not. If it doesn't tell you that you have to, then I'm not going to worry about it. Now in this step, it tells you to draw it just so you see it easier. But once again, some of you will see it without having to draw it. If it's not in the original directions and telling you what to do, then I'm not going to require it. The I step won't either. But if it says to draw it, then you need to draw it. So I know that it is a triangular pyramid. So I have a triangle as my base, and then I have my triangles as my side. A triangular pyramid doesn't mean that it has to have equal lateral triangles all the way around. This example that they give us has an equilateral triangle as the base, but the sides are on different lengths. So when I go to what it's asking me then, it's asking for the lateral surface area. So the bottom is not going to be used. So notice I colored those in. You could shade it in to help you remember in your last step what it is you're going to do. Or you don't have to. You can even put an X on the base if you want. However, you need to do it to remember that what I'm asking for is just the sides, those lateral sides that make up that triangular pyramid. So once I get to that then, I'm going to find what the base is, and I'm going to find out what the height is. So on my formula of 1/2 times base times height, or base times height divided by 2, then I know that my base is 6 and my height is 10 according to my diagram and the information that it gave me. So when I multiply 6 times 10, I get 60. Have to remember it's a triangle. Have to divide it by 2. So 60 divided by 2 gives me that each triangle is 30 square feet. And then when I look at it and it said the lateral area, I know there are 3 because it's a triangular pyramid. So 3 times 30 is 90. So I know that the area of the tent that I'm creating without the base is 90 square feet. But the next question says, to explain the difference, so we have words, between the finding of the surface area and the lateral area of a three-dimensional shape. So the surface area has what to it? So we have a base and we have lateral sides. And then I add them all together. And that's exactly what I put down. Surface area includes the standing sides and the bases. Surface area includes the standing sides and the bases. And then if you need to pause as I go on, please pause it and then we'll do the second sentence. The second sentence then is lateral faces because it tells me to explain the difference, so I have to include both parts. Lateral faces are only the standing sides. So lateral area or the lateral faces is just the standing sides, so I would take the base out. On number 2 on this one then, it says explain how you would find the amount of fabric needed if Quan decided to make a fabric base for the tent. So we had the 3 sides that Quan was making for the tent. We now have the base. So going back to the entire surface area compared to what we were first doing, which is just the lateral faces, then I'm just going to find the area of the base. It's a triangle, so you don't have to show the math problem, but it would show you how you would be doing it. You would take the 6 times the 5, which would give you 30 divided by 2 and 15 square feet. And then we would add it to the area or the lateral area of the faces. You also don't have to have that problem, but if you want to, you can. So you would take your base, which was the 15 square feet, and add it to the 90 square feet, which you had for the lateral faces. So you know the area of your tent would be a total surface area of 105 square feet. You just need to have those 2 sentences is what I need from you. So going on into the share and show then. We start with this. It says to use a net to find the surface area of the square pyramid. It sets up the original steps for us. So we have a base. We have a base for the A. We have square pyramid. So if it's a square pyramid, then I'm going to take 5 times 5. And 5 times 5 is 25. We could use either base times height, or we can use the side squared. Either way, since it is a square. 5 times 5 gives me my 25. And then what am I going to use for my triangular pyramid? What formula? So hopefully you thought either base times height divided by 2 or 1/2 of the base times height. Still means the same way thing mathematically. I take my base and my height first, multiply them together, and then I divide by 1/2. There are 4 of them, so that would be one of my steps. So I know I'm going to have my base times my height, which is 40. I'm going to divide that by 2, which is 20, and then I plug that information in down here. So I have 25 for my base, I have 20 for my triangle, and then once again, going back to the order of operations, I have 4 of those sides because it is a square-based pyramid. So 4 times 20 would give me what? Hopefully you thought 80. So once again, instead of, having to show what my step is, I like to put my box underneath, or I put in my own parentheses, so in my order of operations, I know what to do first mathematically. Have to do multiplication and division before I add every single math problem. So I have my 80, I have my 25, then I can add those together, and I know that this square pyramid has a surface area of 105 square centimeters. On 2, it says a triangular pyramid has a base with an area of 43 square centimeters and lateral faces with bases of 10 centimeters and heights of 8.6 or 8 6/10 centimeters. what is the surface area of the pyramid? So let's think about what they're saying. If I would actually draw that, it's telling me that my triangular pyramid. So if you need to draw a net, please do. And this is the type of thing that you would draw. Doesn't have to be identical to mine. But when they give it to me, they tell me already, without having to know the size, what this area is. So I know I'm going to use that in my math problem and add them together once I find the areas of these triangles. Triangle pyramid tells me I have 3 lateral sides. So I know I'm going to have to multiply that by 3. So in the end, I'm going to add that base to whatever the area is for the triangles. So when I do the triangles, what formula am I going to use? So hopefully you thought I'm going to use my base times my height, and then I'm going to divide it by 2. So if I take my 8.6 times 10. Now, some of you are still doing it the long way, which is fine. But if you learn the shortcut that I've tried teaching you, then it makes it a lot easier. I see only a couple of you using the shortcut. If you want to do it the long way, I'm not going to count it wrong because there's more than one way to do a math problem. But those of you who worry about how much time a math problem is going to take you, do the shortcut. That eliminates a couple seconds there for you. Anytime I multiply by 10, I'm just going to move my decimal to the right. If the decimal's already there, then I know I'm going to move it to the right one time because there's a 0. If there isn't a decimal there, I put it at the end and I move it over to the right one time. Since it's there, I'm going to shift to the right one time. I know I'm going to get 86. But if you do it the long way, it's still going to get you 86. 8.6 or 86 tenths times 10, multiplied by 0, I get 0. My second number tells me to bring down a 0, and then I multiply it by the 1. 1 times 6 is 6, 1 times 8 is 8. Add them together, I get 860. 1 decimal space tells me to move my decimal from right to left one time, still get 86. But then when I have my 86, it is a triangle. I have to divide by 2. Some of you are forgetting that step because you're trying to get into a hurry and get it done as quickly as possible. It's better to slow down for an extra 50 seconds if it takes it to remember, oh yes, it is a triangle, I have to divide by 2 to get a right answer and not have to rework it. 86 divided by 2 then gives me 43. And then I remember 1, 2, 3 triangles. So when I multiply it by 3, I get 129. So I'm going to add my 129 square centimeters for all 3 triangles of the lateral sides. Add them together, I get 172 square centimeters for this triangular pyramid. The next one then, it says a square pyramid. Square pyramid has a base with a side length of 3 feet and lateral faces with heights of 2 feet. What is the lateral area of the pyramid? So when I look at what it's asking me, I only need the lateral area of the pyramid. So what am I going to start to find? So hopefully you thought, well, I don't need that bottom. If you need to draw it, once again, go ahead and realize then, shade it in, put an X on the square base and realize I don't need to find the bottom. I just need to find the laterals, which is the 4 different triangles. So I take my base of 3, and I take my height of 2, multiply it together. 3 times 2 is 6. It's a triangle, so I have to divide that by 2. So I know the area of each triangle is just 3. 3 what? Well, here it tells me that I have feet, so it'd be square feet. How many triangles are there? There are 4. So 3 times 4, doing basic math here, is going to be 12. So I know my lateral area, the side that stands up from the pyramid, is just 12 square feet. We're going to do a couple of these on our own, so you'll pause the video, but we're going to do the first 2 together. So on the first 2, we're going to go step by step. I'm going to take and find the surface area of the square pyramid. I have a base of 8. I have a height of 9. So 8 times 9, I'm going to use my base times my height, or because it's a square, I can square the side. Going to use 8. Either way, 8 times 8 is what? Hopefully you thought 64. So I know my base is 64 square feet. And then I have to find the area of my lateral sides. So I have a base of 8 and a height of 9. So what's that problem look like? Hopefully you have the formula in your head that it's base times height divided by 2. And then when I have that, I just fill in the information they give me. So I know it's 8 times 9. divided by 2. 8 times 9 is 72. I divide 72 square feet by 2, which tells me that one triangle is 36 square feet. How many triangles are there? Well, it's a square-based pyramid. Square has 4 sides, so I know there are 4 triangles that make up my lateral side. So 36 times 4 is 144 square feet. So now to find the surface area, which is all 5 sides, I take my 144 square feet for my lateral side and my base of 64 square feet, and I simply add those together. When I stack them and add them together, then I know I'm going to get 208 square feet. On this pyramid, same setup. I'm going to start with finding the base. I'm going to start with base times height, or my side squared, because it is a square-based pyramid. I'm going to multiply 10 times 10, and 10 times 10 gives me 100 square centimeters. Then I go to my height, and once again my formula is 1/2 times base times height, or base times height divided by 2. So base times height divided by 2 gives me a base of 10, a height of 6, so I plug that into my formula. I know my last step would be dividing by 2. So 10 times 6 is 30. 30 divided by 2 tells me that I have an area, or a surface area, for that one triangle of 30 square centimeters. Square-based pyramid, 4 sides on the square, 4 different triangles that make up my lateral sides. So I know I have to take that area and multiply it by 4. So 30 times 4 then gives me 120 square feet. Oh, it should be centimeters there. My apologies. So when I have my 120 and I add my 100 from my base, then I know I'm going to get 100 or 220 square centimeters. So now I want you to do number 6 on your own. Pause the video. Once you have the answer, unpause the video and continue on. So hopefully you have your answer, and I want to work through what you should have done. The first thing you should have thought about was what your base is. The second thing you should have thought about was what your sides are for your pyramid. Now, hopefully it didn't confuse you by turning the pyramid by the side. There was a big wind in Egypt and it blew the pyramid over. Doesn't matter what it looks like, you know it's a square-based pyramid. So you still start with the base. You either use your base times your height, or you use your sides squared. Either one, you're still going to be multiplying by the base and doubling it. And then hopefully for your side, you used your base times your height divided by 2, because they are triangles. And then when you filled in the information, you got your original problem of 8 times 8. 8 times 8 is 64 square inches. And then on your triangles, you used 8 times. They give you 12.5. Doesn't matter if they give you decimals. Doesn't matter if they give you fractions. Math is still the math. I'm still going to multiply them together. When I have 8 times 12.5, I get 100. And when I divide that by 2, I know I have an area for the triangle of 50. Hopefully you then multiply the 50 by 4, because there are 4 different triangles, and you got your 200. And then your final step should have just been adding the area of the triangles plus the area of the base, and you got 264 square inches. Now, I want you to do the next one on your own. Pause the video, work out the problem, show your work, so that as I go through the steps, you can check your work and make sure that you understand this. Pause the video now, restart once you're done. So hopefully you have your answer, and you realize while reading it, it asks for just the lateral sides of the pyramid, because it says the lateral faces are made almost completely of glass. Then at the bottom it says that what is the total area of the glass. So it's looking for the lateral sides. So you don't have to use that base times height at all. You just have to find the area of the triangles that are made up in that pyramid. So hopefully you took your base times your height divided by 2, and then you multiplied it by 4, because it is a square pyramid. So when I look at it, I have 600 times 440. 600 times 440, that's a big math problem. But I have a handy dandy calculator to do it on, don't I? So 600 times 440 equals 264,000. Now, I want to stress, like I did in science, on 4-digit numbers, they don't require a comma anymore, even though I prefer them, because we're not talking about years. Okay? But anything beyond 4 digits, you have to have a comma in the right place. Okay? So in science, I counted them wrong without commas. And these type of answers, if I have 5 or more digits and I don't have commas, I'm going to count it wrong because it has to be a proper number as my answer. 264,264,000. I don't count it wrong in showing your work, but when it comes to my answer down here, I have to make sure I have my comma. But once I get the area of one triangle, then I have to divide it by 2, so it's an actual answer, which is 132,000. And then there are 4 of them. So I multiply 132,000 by 4, and I know that the area of the lateral sides of this giant glass pyramid is going to be 528,000 square feet. That's a big pyramid. But I have to have that comma there in between the 528, comma 000, so I know I'm talking about 528,000 square feet. So the math on this, once again, is not difficult math. It's just remembering what I'm finding. It's remembering those formulas. And if I don't remember those formulas, then I get out my reference sheets that I've been given by my teacher over and over again and write it down on my paper if I need to when I'm working out the problems. My bases, I find the area of the bases. Now, this was a pretty nice lesson because we only dealt with these two. We only dealt with triangular bases and we dealt with square bases. So that's pretty straightforward. If we get into these, we still have to remember how to find them, and that takes us back to lesson 10, finding the area of polygons, regular polygons. Then we find the lateral faces, and once again, lateral faces are the ones that go up and down, never our bases. Okay? So if we remember that, and then we know that I had them all together, then we know how to find the surface area of a pyramid. Go back through it if you didn't understand it. Take the time to review it if you need to. Then look at the board for your homework. If you have any questions, please come and ask.